Namaskar friends, this is NJ, your host on this channel. In this video, we will have our discussion on a very important divisional chart, which is the D-24 chart or the Chaturvinshansh chart. So now friends, as per our Vedic astrological text, this chart is specifically designed to give information pertaining to the areas of an individual's intelligence, educational pursuit and academic accomplishment. Now you must be wondering that, okay, in my life, my ultimate objective or aim is to progress in the path of spirituality. Or you will say that I made millions in my life. I am a person who is self-made millionaire, but I did not even have my basic education done. So trust me, even in all those areas as well, your degree and sense of perfection in your craft, in your field is something which can be determined by doing a scrutinization of this chart. And also friends, like for anything to do with the spiritual pursuit as well, this chart in a way holds a lot of importance, because see, you have to understand this thing that this is the 24th division of the Rashi. So that means if you are going to divide the 12 houses we have in a chart from 24, we're not going to get any remainder. So in a way, the matters of the 12th house, which primarily tells about the liberation regarding the moksha, so that can also be determined while doing a scrutinization of this chart as well. So now friends, at the last section of this video, I will be explaining the case studies of different people who are seen as a role model in their chosen craft, and how can we see that degree and sense of their commitment to the craft, to the field which they belong in the D-24 chart. So okay friends, now to begin with, now as the name suggests, we get this chart via making a 24 division of your Rashi, and each part or each division tend to remain of 1 degree 15 minutes. Now as per the classical text and the classical language, you have to give attention primarily out of all the 12 houses. You have to look at the first house, because obviously the lagna of any divisional chart, the sign which you find over there, the dignity in which you will find the first house or the first house lord in any specific divisional chart, that gives you this information, the kind of theme and the kind of strength you're going to find in that specific area of your life, the qualities which that divisional chart represent. So first house and the fifth house, because here we are talking about your intelligence. Now whether you can use it for the divine or the spiritual pursuit, or for doing anything connected with the fields of creativity, where something which you might have done in the past lifetime, and the gifts of all the hard work in the past life might be coming to you in the form of good intuition, good creative inspiration in this lifetime, or whether we talk about your education or educational pursuit. So fifth house plays a very important role over there. So in the D-24 chart, you have to see the fifth house as well. And over and above that friends, now you have to blend basis your life. So now you do not have to apply yourself to the concepts of the D-24 chart. You have to apply the concepts of the D-24 chart to your life. So now let's say, for example, if you are a kind of person who is a teacher, so apart from the first house, fifth house in the D-24 chart, you have to see the ninth house as well. If you are a yoga or occult practitioner, apart from the first house, fifth house, you have to also see the 8th house as well, or the 12th house as well. If you are connected with the fields of performing arts, anything to do with the digital media marketing, so then you have to see the 3rd house as well. So that is how you have to pick up the specific houses basis your life, basis your requirement. Now friends, when we talk about the planets, so definitely all the planets represents some specific skill or like trait or field. But over and above that, moon is something which you have to look at without feeling, because moon tells about the functioning of your mind. Mercury, because Mercury tells about your memory, it tells about your retention. And you have to see Jupiter as well, because Jupiter tells about the prospects of your wisdom. So okay friends, now this was a basic overview of the signification of the D-24 chart. Now friends, what I will do next is that I will going to be telling you about the qualities and traits of all the 12 houses, and then we will jump straight away to the different division of this divisional chart and the gods which preside over this divisional chart specifically, because trust me, the moment we will start going forward in our journey, and when you have to scrutinize that, okay, my profession is in the fields of fashion, my fifth house lord is this planet, but the devata which is going to be controlling you, that planet might give you some additional edge regarding the specific traits or qualities or the flair which you're going to have in your craft. So okay friends, now when we talk about all the 12 houses, so definitely to begin with, first house is very important because that is going to tell about the kind of theme you're going to find in that specific area of your life. Is your educational pursuit is going to be filled with determination, hard work, which could be the trait of a earth sign, or whether it is going to be filled with lot of talks, lot of conversations, lot of training, lot of seminars, which could be the air element quality. So that is something which you get to know from the first house. Now friends, second house of the D24 chart becomes very important because second house in a way tells about the resources or the assets you have. So over here we are talking about the assets in a way. For a spiritual seeker, this could be the kind of siddhis you have. For someone who is in any sort of corporate job, so the kind of MBAs, training certificates you have, that might also act as a resources for you pertaining to this chart. So those are the significations represented by the second house of the D24 chart. Third house tells about the kind of efforts you are going to put in your chosen field or for any sort of academic accomplishments or educational pursuit. Now friends, when we talk about the fourth house, so now friends, over here there is a little bit of the bone of contention because many astrologers look primarily to the fifth house regarding the matters of judging someone's basic education, and some astrologers look at the fourth house. So I would say that fourth house in a way also becomes important when you have to judge the degrees, diplomas, certifications you're going to have. Now friends, fifth house becomes very important because this is the house which tells about your vidya, about your medha, about your memory, about your intelligence, your intellectual pursuit. So trust me, in the D24 chart, fifth house becomes very important. Now friends, next is the sixth house, which becomes very important. Let's say for example, if you're already working in the fields of law, arbitration, healthcare professional, fitness industry, or sixth house in the D24 chart also tells about the kind of obstacles which you have to face, which you have to go through in the form of the attainment of those intellectual pursuit, those sort of degrees, coveted titles and all of that. Friends, we have seen all those kind of cases like that person faced a lot of obstacles and setback in order to get his basic education. Like these are the cases which we generally find in the developing countries, like the third world countries, where the access to education is not that easily available to all the people. So like in spite of facing all those obstacles, you still made it big in your chosen field. So all those kind of prospects of greatness and surviving all sort of obstacles is something which we get to know from the sixth house. Now friends, seventh house also becomes very important because this is the house of the masses. The way you are going to use your intelligence or your chosen field in order to influence the masses, bring a change in other people's lives, or the kind of value addition which you give to other people because of your work. And also friends, because seventh house is also the house of our deeper committed relationship and all of that. So the kind of relationship which you're going to have with your possession of the knowledge and the wisdom and the degrees. Friends, when we talk about the 8th house, so definitely this is the house of transformation. This is the house of research, occult, secretive studies. So any study done in these lines, in these direction, or the way the attainment of the knowledge and the wisdom is going to work in your life in order to give a transformation to your life. So all those prospects can be foreseen with the 8th house in the D24 chart. Now friends, when we talk about the 9th house, so this is actually the house of the divinity. This is the house of the higher knowledge, higher wisdom and the higher mind. So I would say that anything to do with the prospects of the PhDs, too many titles and a uplifting career is something which we can see with the state of the 9th house in your D24 chart. 10th house becomes very important because this is the house of that friends, like when we specifically talk about that whatsoever knowledge or talent you have attained in this life, are you going to be utilizing that in your craft, in your field or not? And also friends, like when we talk about the prospects of the recognition or success, so all those people who get the Nobel Prize or get so many awards, or they tend to have a very distinguished, accomplished career in any specific field. So that is something which we can see with the state of the 10th house in your D24 chart. Now friends, 11th house is the house of the gains. How much you will gain because of the unique talents which you possess, the kind of intelligence which you possess, the kind of academic degrees and all of that which you have attained, how much you will ultimately gain out of that. That is something which we see from the 11th house. Friends, 12th house becomes very important because this is the house of the wisdom, transcendental knowledge, and a house of liberation and moksha, like the attainment of the pure of the knowledge in its purest essence. Now friends, many astrologers look at this house as the Karaka or the most significant house in the D24 chart. But in my research, and I personally feel that 5th house should be given more weightage in the D24 chart. So that is a choice, or that is a decision which I will leave up to you guys. But definitely friends, like if your occupation is exclusively coming in the purview of the 12th house, then definitely this house will become more important for you. Now friends, when we talk about from the planetary contributions perspective, so definitely Sun is going to be giving information regarding success in the politics, in administration, federal government job, or all those people who influences large number of people. Like when we talk about the influence on the masses, on the countries, working on the top management, so those are the qualities which we generally attach with the Sun. Now when we talk about moon generally tells about the creative talents, like working in the fields of imagination, creativity, receptivity, travel, business can be connected with the moon. When we talk about from the Mars's perspective, Mars can actually give you success in any sort of competitive career, like athletics, engineering, technology, making heightened use of your logics and debating skills. Now friends, Mercury becomes very important for all those people who are in the fields of advertising, marketing, commerce, trade, having your own business, expertise over many languages. Jupiter becomes very important for the true essence of the spiritual divine knowledge. Attainment of Siddhya, of the transcendental knowledge and awareness is something which we attach generally with the Jupiter. Friends, in a way, Jupiter is the actual true trainer, preacher and preceptor amongst all the planets. So having or gaining that success in any sort of teaching profession is something which we attach with the planet Jupiter. Venus tells about the fashion, beauty, creative talents, financial management, high-end luxury, or all those profession which directly influences or involves a woman. Now friends, even in this chart, Saturn plays a very important role. Because friends, like the way at the beginning of this video, I gave this example that not all of us have been blessed and lucky in order to have access to the right set of teachers, right set of schools and teaching or study material and all of that. So Saturn generally represents all those people who have worked very hard in order to gain that knowledge and reach that position of power in their chosen craft, in their chosen field. Now friends, see here we are not talking about specifically from the perspective of your profession, because that might be a area of the D10 chart or the Dasamsa chart. But even in order to gain any sort of wisdom, knowledge, gaining mastery over any skill, that too after persistent efforts and after facing a lot of obstacles and resistance, is something which is represented by the planet Saturn in this D24 chart. And lastly friends, like Rahu and Ketu are going to be conjunct in one house in this divisional chart. So in a way, whenever we talk about any of those unusual profession, all those profession where there is a lot of unpredictability involved, where there is a lot of research and exploration is involved, so all those are the profession which is determined with the Rahu and Ketu and their presence in the D24 chart. Trust me friends, if you will find Rahu and Ketu to be dignified, and over and above that the lord of the sign or the house where they are going to be placed to be dignified in the D24 chart, some exceptional success can be achieved, can be attained in the matters of that specific house in the life of the native. So now friends, before we will move to the calculation part of this topic, the takeaway of all of that which we have studied so far is that D24 chart primarily tells about your intelligence, educational pursuit, academic accomplishments, and the house which you have to give heightened importance in the D24 chart is your first house and then the fifth house. Now friends, the next section is about dividing and getting into the calculation part of this divisional chart, which is very easy these days because we have access to different softwares and apps which do everything for us. But now friends, over here, because you are undergoing so much hard work of watching this video and doing its assessment in your own life, and unless and until you have not involved the devatas or the gods of this specific divisional chart, so you might not be able to understand the essence of this topic. So in order to do that decoding, you might have to understand the basic formation or the principle or the calculation which is being used in the formation of this chart, which is that you have to make 24 equal parts or division of the Rashi, where each part is going to be of 1 degree 15 minutes each. So now friends, as you can see in your screen, that I have just made the 24 division of the 0 to 30 degrees zodiac space of a zodiac sign. Now friends, in the next slide, as you can see over here, so now friends, this in a way looks like very complicated, but it is very easy to understand. So let's say, for example, if your your ascendant is placed in an odd sign and it is placed in between the 11 degree 15 minutes to 12 degree 30 minutes, which is the 10th part, as you can see in the slide on your screen. So that means the rising sign which you're going to find in the D24 chart is going to be of the Taurus. Same way friends, let's say for example, if you will find that in your main ascendant chart, your some planet, or let's take up the case of the Lagan ascendant again, is going to be placed in between the 5 degrees to 6 degree 15 minutes, and the Lagna sign of yours belongs to the even category. Like this could be Taurus, this could be Cancer, this could be Virgo, this could be Scorpio, Capricorn or Pisces. So then that means it is going to be placed in the Scorpio in the D24 chart. So you are going to have the Scorpio as your rising sign in the D24 chart. Now friends, after going through these two slides which you have just seen in your screen, now friends comes the most important part of this discussion, which is about understanding the qualities of the devatas. So now friends, in this D24 chart, we have the 12 gods which preside as the devatas on this specific divisional chart. So first is the Skanda. So Skand, which we all know as the Hindu god of the which represents the warrior like qualities. So definitely friends, if your fifth house lord is going to be placed in this specific section which is being controlled by the god Skanda, so that means in your educational pursuit, in your chosen craft, in your field, you have to demonstrate very strong fighting spirit, and the leadership qualities is something which will come very naturally to you. Like all those people we have seen, like whether you talk about Indian politics or you talk about any international politics, many globally recognized leaders start their political career right from their educational, their college days only. So something of that nature could be attached if your fifth house lord is going to be presided over by the god Skanda. Now friends, the second god is the Parshuram. Now Parshuram, which has been depicted as a warrior, a strategist and a defender of righteousness. So now trust me friends, in my case, my fifth house lord is the planet Sun, which is my Atma Karaka as well, and very soon I will explain you the calculation part as well. So my fifth house lord Sun is placed in a degree which is being presided over by the Parshurama. So that in itself means that being a defender of righteousness is something, if I will stand by those principles, it is actually going to help me flourish, and the divine blessing or the spiritual knowledge is something which will automatically keep on coming in my life. Now friends, the third god of the D24 chart is the Anala, which is the Agni, which represents fire, energy, power. So you might have your chosen field or your business or your profession in the fields where you need to demonstrate expertise with electronic equipments, firearms, you could be a very good debater or critic. So that is how the qualities are going to manifest if your important planet, your first house lord, your fifth house lord, your 10th house lord is going to be presided over by the Agni. Now friends, next is the Vishwakarma. Now this god becomes very important for all those people who might have their career in the fields of Vastu, interior decor, you being working as a realtor or aspiring to become a realtor in future, or you are a civil engineer. So Vishwakarma is the creator of all beings or the architect of gods. Embellishments, knowledge of creating and constructing is the domain of this specific god of the D-24 chart. Now friends, next is the Bhaga, which is the god of the good fortune, luck, happiness, fame and glory, which definitely becomes equally important for all the professions, but specifically people working in the fields of entertainment, media business, where you need to be lucky enough to get the right chance and being popular amongst the masses. So this god can actually become very important. Now friends, next is the Mitra, which is the son, a friend, ally, neighbor of king, is connected to sage Vishwamitra, who became a Brahm Rishi and gave Gayatri mantra to the world. So not only your portrayal is going to be of a very friendly person, you might also flourish or succeed in your life because of your friendly nature, your good networking. You might get admission to a very good B school, very good corporate school, and all the kind of connections which you're going to make during your academic journey. That might also play a very pivotal role in your success in the latter half of the life. So these are the qualities which Mitra bestows on someone. Now friends, next is the Maya. Now Maya represents, like even in the Vastu Shastra, Maya Matam is being attached with as an important book and the god within the Vastu Shastra text as well. So it just tells about that the architect of the demons could grant knowledge of the mechanical science, civil engineering and architecture. So if you are already working in those fields and your important 5th house lord, ascendant lord or 10th house lord is going to be presided over by Maya, that can be seen as a very good sign. Friends, over here all these 12 gods are being seen from the perspective of your intelligence and your academic talents and academic educational pursuit only. Now friends, next is the Antak, now which represents causing death or destruction, or which is generally seen as a destroyer. So that means it could give proficiency in jobs dealing with the matters of life and death. Next is the Vrishadhwaja, which is connected with the Lord Shiva, a pious or virtuous man, and could grant knowledge of yoga, meditation, tantra and other mystical techniques. So let's say for example, if you actually want to succeed in any sort of artistic field, creative field, or the fields of yoga, meditation, spiritual elevation and all of that, so being your important planets being presided over by Vrishadhwaja can be seen as a very positive sign in that direction. Next is friends the Govinda, Lord Krishna, which is the Lord of cows, chief herdsman, and it could grant knowledge of political science, state planning, creative talents, dairy and culinary arts. So if you are a aspiring hotelier and all of that, and if your important like ascendant lord, 5th house lord, 10th house lord is being presided over by Govinda from the D-24 chart, deities and all of that, that can be seen as a very good sign. And friends, Madana, which represents intoxicating, it is a form of the Kamadeva, the god of love only. So it could grant proficiency in the sensual artistic pursuits. And lastly friends, Bhima, which represents terrible, dreadful, formidable, one of the Pandava. So it could give immense power and physical strength to you. So like if you are in that line of work, you want to become a wrestler, you want to become an athlete, anything to do with the lot of combativeness and all of that. So if you're important like 5th house lord, 10th house lord or ascendant lord is going to be placed and being presided over by Bhima, it can actually make you a very formidable person in your given field. So now friends, we will take up our discussion to the last section of this video, where we will take up the case of people from different background and how can we see the resonance coming out from the D-24 chart, the field, the craft in which they made their profession and the way they use their intelligence in that specific field. So now friends, first is the chart of the Steve Jobs. So now the only few words which describe this person is someone who is very much driven towards technology, innovation, fighting spirit. So now friends, if you will look at Steve Jobs ascendant chart, so over here you will find that definitely his Saturn is in a very empowered state in the third house. So in order to build something very substantial, you need to have a strong Saturn and a strong empowered third house. And over and above that friends, his moon is placed in the 8th house. And I have explained this thing so many times that whenever we talk about innovation, looking at things which other people cannot see, so that sort of intuitive faculties working in your favor, so something of the 8th house always comes in the picture. And here we are talking about technology, engineering and all of that. So definitely Rahu and Mars is going to have a strong say. And as you can see in his main ascendant chart, his Rahu is placed with Venus right over there in the 5th house. Although from the science perspective, it is not in a very strong dignity, but the mere placement of Rahu in the 5th house somehow brings this flavors of innovation, out of the box thinking to your mental faculties. And friends, the conjunction of Jupiter with Ketu in the 11th house is a very good sign of doing things on a very magnanimous big level. So now friends, if you will look at his D-24 chart, so now friends, whenever you have to do any kind of correlation or study the correlation between the ascendant chart and the divisional chart, so the first thing which you have to see is that the way the ascendant lord from the Lagna chart is correlating with the D-24 chart or divisional chart in consideration. So over here friends, you will see that the ascendant lord from the Lagna, Sun, is placed in the 12th house in the D-24 chart. And in the D-24 chart, the rising sign has been extracted that has come from the 12th house energy of the Lagna chart. So intelligence is actually coming out of from the matters of the 12th house from the main ascendant chart, which has everything to do with the hiddenness or doing something which other people would not have done so far in that specific sector. So friends, in his D-24 chart, moon has got a say in the Lagna. And if you will look at the 5th house, because this is how I study the D-24 chart, which has everything to do with the matters of the 1st house, 5th house, and in a way you can involve 12th house as well. And in Steve Jobs case, you can fairly see the resonance that his 5th house lord is the planet Mars. It is placed in the 6th house, giving him that fighting spirit. He not only fought with the world but within his organization as well. And over and above that friends, an accentuated 12th house can also be seen as a very good sign. Like friends, for a spiritual seeker, if that could be the highest purified state of moksha or the liberation, so for someone who is devoting his life to any tech field or any educational pursuit, this is something about the true attainment of the highest of the titles or attaining that state of perfection because of your contribution to the world. So that is friends, that is how we can see the resonance of the D-24 chart, which primarily tells about your intelligence, the way your mind function happening in the life of the Steve Jobs. Now friends, the next chart is of the Albert Einstein. Now friends, when we talk about intelligence, this person does not need any introduction. So as you can see in Albert Einstein's chart, the first thing which draw my attention is the 8th house. So in his 8th house, you can see that Mars is exalted and it is conjunct with Rahu over there as well. In his 10th house, he has Venus, he has Sun, he has Mercury, Saturn. He has 4 planets well placed over there. And friends, like the way we have to do a correlation between the D1 chart and the D24 chart. So if you will see over here from the D1 chart, the 1st house lord, which is the planet Mercury, it is placed over here in the D24 chart in the 3rd house. And in the D24 chart, the 1st house lord is the planet Saturn, which is well placed in the 10th house in Albert Einstein's case. So we can say in this way as well that he used his intelligence in order to put forth his best efforts in his chosen craft, in his profession. The second thing is that friends, from which house the energy of the D24 chart has come out of his main Lagna chart. So you can see fairly over here that his D24 chart ascendant came out of the energy of his 8th house from the D1 chart. So Capricorn sign is over there in his 8th house, which has become a Lagna in the D24 chart. So that means somehow innovation, research, sudden discovery, invention is something which can be seen as a strength area in the life of this great genius scientist, which is Albert Einstein. So now friends, before we will move to the next chart, so like the way many astrologers attach 12th house as the significant house in the D24 chart, and my favorite is the 5th house in the D24 chart while doing a scrutinization of this divisional chart. So now friends, both of the houses are in such a strong dignity. Now if you will see that his Jupiter is very well placed over there in his 12th house, so all of his discoveries actually made him a role model for so many generations to come. But if you will look at it from his own mental perspective, so just because Albert Einstein was very much driven towards the humanitarian causes as well, and he even confessed this thing at one of his interview, that his discovery and his contribution towards the theory of relativity and the nuclear sciences is something which accidentally he actually gave the weapon of mass destruction to humans. So that sense of humanitarianism and kind of a righteousness attached to your intellectual faculties is something which we can see in the D24 chart of Albert Einstein. So friends, after the chart of Albert Einstein and Steve Jobs, I will be showing you the chart of a very important person. So don't keep your expectation high. I'm just joking. It's my own chart only. So now friends, I am putting up my chart in this case study only because of the way my life started. I actually started with a marketing job and all that corporate career and all of that. And I came to a field which is very unusual if I will compare that with my beginning. Now the only thing which I want to show over here is that because here we are talking about intelligence, here we are talking about the intellectual pursuits, and trust me friends, astrology is not a science where you just do 1 year of course and then you are done with all the knowledge and you just have to practice looking at people's charts and making predictions. This is a field where you have to always be in the pursuit of the attainment of the knowledge, attainment of more and more skill set. So now friends, what we can find out from my D24 chart, this is something which I wanted to show over here. Now whatsoever I'm going to be explaining it to you over here, but if you think that you are finding something else in this assessment, whether in my chart or on the previous reference charts, please feel free to write it in the comment section. So friends, over here in my ascendant chart, as you can see that my Lagan Nakshatra is Ashwini, my Moon Nakshatra is Sadbisha, both has to do with the healing. Even my ascendant lord and the 10th house lord, both being the planet Saturn and Mars, are placed in the Anuradha Nakshatra, a nakshatra of the devotion. Now friends, if you will come to the D24 chart, I have explained that thing so many times that when we talk about the new moon yoga, like sun and moon being conjunct in a same house, that act as a blessing in disguise for all those people who are in any sort of meditative field, anything to do with the research and the exploration. Over and above that friends, in the D24 chart, Rahu and Ketu you will find to be conjunct in one house, and that house actually gains lot of predomination importance, that whether you have the capacity to do something unusual in any specific area. So in the D24 chart, Rahu and Ketu are conjunct in the 12th house. Second thing is that in my Lagan chart, if you will see, I have a Mars as a rising sign that is placed in the 11th house in the D24 chart. So I will also be able to make gain out of all the intellectual pursuit which are going to follow in my life. And lastly friends, we always say this thing, that the strength of the Bhav lord, like the strength of the first house lord in the D24 chart as well. So my first house lord in the D24 chart is the planet Venus, which is very well placed over here in the 6th house in its own sign. And lastly friends, like the 5th house lord, which is the planet Mercury, it is also conjunct with Jupiter in the 7th house, that too in the Scorpio sign, which has again to do with the occult sciences and research and exploration. So definitely friends, the way my life started, I have said this thing so many times, had I been following a corporate career, I would have been an average person over there. But with the kind of energy, intensity and enthusiasm I put myself in this field of occult and spirituality and all of that, so trust me, we can fairly see the resonance coming out in the D24 chart, which is more indicative of a career devoted to the fields of spirituality or astrology or occult sciences or research rather than a regular corporate career. So now friends, before we will move to the next reference chart, if you also want to see how to correlate or attach the devatas with your planets, so that is very simple. Now as you can see that my Lagan is placed in the 12 degree 6 minutes but in a odd sign. So all what you have to do is that you have to go to this table, you have to see that the 12 degree 6 minute fall in the 10th part. Like we have to do the 24 parts of 1 degree 15 minutes each. So 12 degree 6 minutes fall in the 10th section, where the section is from the 11 degree 15 minutes till 12 degree 13 minutes. So 10th part I have to see in a odd sign. So now friends, if you will see over here, the 10th part in the odd sign is falling in the Govinda. So my ascendant is falling, or Govinda preside over as a teacher, as a significator of the intelligence right over there on my ascendant. So Govinda, which is someone who could grant you knowledge of political science, state planning, creative talents, dairy and culinary arts. But most important is the 5th house Lord's scrutinization. So now friends, in my case, my 5th house Lord is the planet Sun. Now Sun is placed in a even sign and it is placed in the 27 degree 31 minutes. Now we will again go back to the distribution of the D24 chart. So 27 degree 31 minute will fall in the category of the in the 23rd part. Like 23rd part is from 27 degree 30 minutes to 28 degree 45 minutes. So 23rd part in the even category. So you will come over here, you will see that in the even sign category, 23rd part falls in the Parshuram. So my 5th house Lord is being presided over by the Parshuram. So which represents the qualities of a warrior, a strategist and defender of righteousness. So now friends, after this, the last reference chart is of an athlete. I have already mentioned this thing, that the concept or the nuances of the D24 chart is going to be equally applicable in people in any chosen craft or field. So now friends, in his case, because being an athlete, you have to have a strong Mars and a strong 6th house. As you can fully see in his case as well. So his he in the Lagan chart, he has got a Gemini rising. In his case, his 6th house is so empowered. Even his ascendant Lord has gone to the 6th house. So Saturn, Mercury, Ketu. So in a way, this combination tells about someone who is definitely going to be a perfectionist and someone who has this potential or capacity to reach to the level of a legend in his chosen craft, in his chosen field. Now friends, the moment you will open up his D24 chart. So now friends, over here, the first thing to notice is that his D24 chart rising sign has come out of the energies of the 5th house from his main Lagan chart or the ascendant chart. Second thing is that friends, whenever we talk about anything to do with the greatness, so if you will look at his 11th house, in his D24 chart in the 11th house, he has Sun conjunct with Rahu and Ketu. So double empowered 11th house is a very good sign. Second thing is that friends, here again we are talking about the greatness. So his 5th house Lord is the planet Saturn, which is placed in the 10th house. So achieving something or success because of your skill, because of your talent. And second thing is that friends, even if you will look at his 12th house, so in a way his first house is connected with the matters of the 12th house. So that is a positive news, because many astrologers give more weightage to the 12th house in the D24 chart even compared to the 5th house. But friends, overall the alignment which he has in his chart, like even in the main Lagan chart, Mercury is placed and conjunct with Ketu in the 6th house. And even in the D24 chart, his Venus is well placed in the 12th house as per the definition and the directions guidelines of the classical text for the D24 chart. But again, Venus is debilitated over there. So specifically the matters of his financial management, because definitely he is a billionaire, he is considered as one of the legend in his chosen craft. But we have also seen the downfall in so many ways, even in the cases of the celebrities as well. So his relationship with the woman, and second thing is that his financial management is something which will always be a matter of concern or scrutiny, because right now he's very young, his career is going very high, but again anything can happen if your stars are making you vulnerable or giving you additional power or additional thrust. So this is something, friends, which I wanted to say as a part of my inputs on this concept of D-24 chart, which plays a very pivotal role in determining someone's intelligence, educational pursuit, and academic accomplishments. For further more updates and notifications on the divine science of Vedic astrology, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. Dhanyawad.